Welcome to Camnet TV Main News. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Headlines. Secretary to the Cabinet hints on cutting down allowances for civil servants to increase productivity. Government to maintain the LGBTQ community clinic at UTH. A 24-year-old woman of CHAWAMA compound nursing a deep wound after taking a family planning jab. And in international news, Guinea's military ruler in Mali on eve of ECOWAS extraordinary summit. And in sports, Manchester United announces €115.5 million net loss for 2021-2022 season. Details coming through after this commercial.
You know I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
And now the main news in detail. The Zambia Union for All Persons with Disabilities says there is need for government to be sensitive to issues of persons with disabilities, especially at international meetings, as this could attract international aid in this area. Reacting to President Hakainde Hichilema's speech at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly, Union President Pascal Mulenga notes that there was no mention of this group of people. He adds that Zambia is signatory to International United Nations Protocol advocating for equality, hence the need for equal representation. The head of state is currently in New York to attend the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly, which is running from 18th to the 22nd of September 2022.
As persons living with disability, we appreciate whatever the president had spoken. However, we are calling upon His Excellency to be very sensitive on the issues pertaining to the persons living with disability. We have noted that the president never talked about the things that Zambia has achieved for all of us persons living with disability. We are very much disappointed. Therefore, we are calling upon the President of Zambia to be very good and very focused on the issues that are affecting us persons living with disability, because United Nations Organization is a signatory together with Zambia to all the issues that are affecting us persons with disability. The issues that's to do with education, the issues that's to do with the soft things that persons with disability are facing. A lot of persons living with disability in our countries are not educated as expected. So we are very much disappointed from the speech of the president, because because as persons living with disability, we are not considered as compared to the issues pertaining to gender, which the president had talked about, the issues that has to do with economy, the issues that had to do with various challenges. But disability was not discussed among the United Nations.
A 24-year-old woman of CHAWAMA compound in Lusaka is nursing a serious wound on her left hand, suspected to have been as a result of Depo-Provera, a contraceptive injection that she was jabbed at a named public health facility. Dorcas Malama tells Camnet News that she developed a painful arm shortly after receiving a Depo-Provera jab, which few days later led to a swollen arm. Ms. Malama says she was later referred to Chilenge Level 1 Hospital, where she was prescribed painkillers, but that the medication did not help cure the problem. She further says she went to the University Teaching Hospital, where she was told that the problem might have been as a result of negligence by the health practitioner who attended to her when she failed to disinfect her hands before administering the jab. And Helen Malama, mother to the victim, says that her daughter has suffered so much pain and that she wants the government to compensate the family for the pain inflicted on them due to the negligence by a health practitioner.
Barely a week after a woman who had her arm amputated due to suspected wrong family planning injection was released from the hospital, another woman of Lusaka's CHAWAMA compound, identified as Dorcas Malama, is nursing a serious wound on her left arm that nearly left her amputated. Ms. Malama, a 24-year-old and mother to one child, has told Camnet News that she developed a painful arm shortly after receiving a Depo-Provera, a contraceptive injection, at a named public health facility in Lusaka. She tells this reporter that when the situation worsened, she went back to the named health post but was referred to Chilenge Level 1 Hospital, where she was given painkillers that did not help the situation.
This is family planning, Depo. Then after nalasisa, the following day, kwanja zinamba kubaba. Afterwards, nabwana shita notice that kwanja yamba kuvimba. Then nabwana nkalako 3 days, because it was a weekend, sevenza kwen nabwana lasisa family planning. Nabwana bwele lako, kutini shita explain problem, mababa ntuma I should go to Kanyama General Hospital. Kanyama General Hospital, I was just given an injection, antibiotics, na painkiller. From there, I stayed the day, problem ya munkala wes, kwanja mbwenda ivimbi lako. Bananisa advised that I should be using ice. Na using sako ice kuchinapo, but still problem ya nkala wes.
Ms. Malama further explains that she later decided to seek medical services at the University Teaching Hospital, where when she inquired on why her condition had turned to worse, she was told that it might have been as a result of negligence by the health practitioner who failed to disinfect her arm before administering the injection.
Ku UTH, after banisuka, spananze vidivon, so penna bolela ku review. Nabana indomfunza what really caused this problem, and I knew that it would have been negligence ya nurse. Maybe spana kiline po chita inject na spirit, because wafungo kilina na spirit, so maybe anangesa ma bacteria mukati mwaskini ndechi nambo kozinga ichilonda kwa panga mafina mukati.
The mother of a 7-month-old baby now says due to her condition, she has been unable to breastfeed her baby and now wants compensation from the government over the pain that the whole incident has caused to her family, including a little baby.
Just be compensated for this. Yeah, and I think the government should also take precautions. They should provide all the things that are necessary needed in my health posts. Because I'm sure this problem is not really the fault of the nurse, but maybe they didn't have spirit which they could use to clean my arm.
A mother to the victim has appealed to the health practitioners in the country to pay more attention when handling health-related matters.
Instead apa sevenzeko, apa sasevenza, then mwana achepesa 7 months aleka kunyonka. Elo ife na ife atipasa burden yosakira vakuda va mwana. So aba bantu bafunika at least vakazika konzeru. Chifuko banasanka inchito. Bamese ngati baze kufuna kusevenza. Sembe banale ikachabe kansi. Kupambana kuti bakasevenzera bantu bafuna help ku health manje futi vileta ma problem.
Pantu ngabena ngabaleposa kwa mano ishi muntu uli obale chitando ala abafye bwino. So pantu penyo ya di moyo ifo chadi tupapusha bonze pantu po twambira ukulasha amanyere tikale sana.
As this young mother is coming to terms with her condition, her hope is that no other woman should go through what she had to endure. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Secretary to the Cabinet, Patrick Kangwa, has warned that government will clamp down on daily subsistence allowances for officials in the civil service in order to increase their productivity. Mr. Kangwa, who spoke at the productivity conference for senior officers in the public service, says government officials are occupied with the desire of DSS, which has been obstructing their performances towards work. He says it is not every activity that officials should travel to, but says they should take advantage of technology in the gathering of information. Meanwhile, Labour Minister Brenda Tambatamba notes that a research conducted by the Ministry of Labour between 2019 and 2020 showed that growth of labour productivity for the public service was negative 43.68%.
According to a research conducted by the Ministry of Labour and Social Security between 2019 and 2020, growth in labour productivity for the public service was negative 43.68%, a situation that calls for not only a change in the way business is done in the public service, but a complete turnaround involving reforms at strategy level, structural realignment and mindset change. Acting Secretary to Cabinet Patrick Kangwa, who spoke at the productivity conference for senior officials in the public service in Lusaka Thursday, however, says it is disheartening to note that productivity in the public service has collapsed, as most public service workers are now focusing more on receiving daily subsistence allowances as opposed to delivering.
We're not even getting the reports. There are no reports coming out. There's no change happening. And all our yellow books are allowances, workshops, and fuel. That's the yellow book. The titles are beautiful. We'll do this. When you go inside, it's fuel, DSA. How do we push our productivity up if that's our attitude?
Mr. Kangwa has since warned that the government will start clamping down on DSS for public service workers and instead has encouraged them to focus on being productive.
The damage these allowances and trips have done to government is my biggest challenge. Honorable Minister, no matter what we say here, if we sit here, talk, and people go back, they're only coming for the tourism at the office to confirm if there's a trip out, to confirm if there's a workshop, or whether there's some procurement going on in the institution. We won't change this country. The pronouncement has been made. We're going to clamp down on this. Don't say you are not warned.
Meanwhile, Minister of Labour and Social Security's Brenda Tambatamba, who officially opened the conference, says her ministry has reached an advanced stage in developing legislation on productivity.
I am glad to inform you that the ministry, my ministry, has reached an advanced stage in developing legislation on productivity. The proposed legislation will, among other things, harmonize and streamline the mandates of the institutions that currently promote productivity, as well as provide focus regarding their functions and operations.
And the International Labour Organization ILO says low productivity is one of the root causes of the working poor phenomenon.
At the micro level, the more productive a company is, or if you want to relate it to our situation or the theme of the conference, a more productive public service will create a competitive environment for our services to be delivered on time.
The aspiration of Zambia becoming a prosperous middle-income country by the year 2030 will not be attained if most public service workers remain unproductive. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Police in Lusaka have confirmed that Mwenze Council Chairperson Humphrey Kapapula was found dead this morning, but clarified that his body was intact save for minor scratches bleeding from his manhood. Police spokesperson Rehamonga has confirmed social media reports that Mr. Kapapula was discovered dead on a gravel road in the early hours of Thursday, but that the police were still investigating the cause of his death. Social media was awash with pictures of the civic leader laying beside his vehicle and reports indicating that his manhood has been severed by unknown assailants when in fact not.
He was found lying dead next to his motor vehicle around 06:10 hours. His body was found intact with just minor injuries on the left eye, bruises on the forehead, and also bleeding from his penis. I'd like to also mention that he was found along the gravel road leading to Nyembe CHAWAMA farm, which is about 300 meters away from the Mwense road. So as police, we have issued investigations, and not until we're done with the investigations are we able to give a comprehensive statement relating circumstances surrounding his death. The body was found intact. Only what was affected on the penis is that it was bleeding, but it was not cut off as alleged on the social media.
Joint investigations involving 6 security wings and SADC member states has led to the arrest of 92 people for various offences, search of 85 motor vehicles and detention of 67 illegal immigrants, among others. The investigations, dubbed Operation Asalama 8 from 19th to 21st September 2022 in Lusaka and Copperbelt, also led to the recovery of 7 motor vehicles and arrest of 11 people for wildlife-related offences and arrest of 1 woman for being in possession of explosive materials. According to the Police Inspector General, Lemi Kajoba says 4 other people were arrested for drug-related offences and another person was arrested for tax evasion.
The Edwin Imboyela Stadium is full of vehicles that have been impounded for various offences. Most of the vehicles were stolen from South Africa and have broken door handles and tampered chassis numbers. A joint operation team also seized 405 bottles of codeine and 1 kg of high-grade cannabis estimated at 80,000 kwacha and 15,000 kwacha respectively. And a total of 67 illegal immigrants were apprehended during the operation. The Inspector General of Police toured the site and gave a breakdown of the apprehended immigrants.
7 Tanzanians, 8 Congolese, 5 Burundians, 3 Malawans, 4 Zimbabweans, 1 Somalian.
He has also given more updates on the joint investigations.
Had 85 stolen motor vehicles, 7. Arrested a number of arrests made for theft of motor vehicles, 6. Arrests made for drug offences, 4. Arrests made for wildlife related offences, 11. Arrests made for mineral offences, 1. Arrest made for being in possession of explosive material, 1. Arrest made for tax evasion, 1. Illegal immigrants, we've got 67. A total number of people arrested for various offenses is 92.
However, the top cop warned perpetrators of such illegal activities of stern action.
I wish to warn that as law enforcement agencies, as a team, we are more than ready to meet squarely and deal sternly with all perpetrators of transnational organized crimes within and other countries.
Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security Jack Mwimbu says the United Party for National Development UPND administration will not close the special clinic catering for homosexual community at the University Teaching Hospital in Lusaka, as doing so would derail the fight against HIV and AIDS for which it was established. And Mr. Mwimbu has denied threatening anyone that openly speaks against homosexuality and that the New Dawn administration shall not entertain homosexuality. Meanwhile, government has warned opposition political parties and foreign entities who have been brought in the country to train the LGBTQ community to champion homosexuality agenda.
The Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Jack Mwimbu, has clarified that contrary to some claims from some sections of society purporting that a special clinic for homosexuals was built recently, it was established before the New Dawn government ascended to power.
It is not us. It is the government of the PF. After being advised and after having considered the issues, to establish a special clinic at the UTH for the homosexuals. It is not the UPND government. If they establish the clinic at UTH to provide special services for the homosexuals, it follows that the PF government then knew that there was homosexuality in this country.
Asked whether government had any intentions of closing the special clinic at UTH, Mr. Mwimbu said no at the moment.
It was established for a specific purpose, and I have no doubt in my mind that that purpose still exists. So we cannot close it for the time being until the situation changes. Because we have to protect our people from the vice of HIV and AIDS. You are all aware that one of the major ways of transmitting HIV and AIDS is through these unnatural acts that are being perpetrated.
He also refuted claims that he has been warning people against speaking on homosexuality through parliament.
I've never threatened anybody. My statement on the floor of the House, which I made, was that all of us have the responsibility to protect the moral standing of our people in this country and ensure that we adhere to the laws of this country. I also requested various stakeholders to educate those who are involved in homosexuality to desist from that vice, for it is against the law of this country.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mwimbu says government has just unearthed a scam in which some political parties, media houses and pressure groups are sponsoring sporadic incidences of men and boys being sodomized. He has maintained that the UPND government will not condone acts of homosexuality. He adds that preliminary investigations indicate that some political parties have hijacked the homosexuality agenda to dent the name of the head of state. Tito Kalama, Camnet News.
United Party for National Development National Trustee Grace Chivuwe says there is need to depoliticize the debate on sodomy in the country if the matter is to be handled objectively. In an interview, Ms. Chivuwe says many politicians have continued tagging the current administration with homosexuality, despite the head of state clearly stating that the current administration does not subscribe to the vice. Meanwhile, the party has also clarified on references usually made to the former ruling Patriotic Front in its governance, stating that changing a political system does not happen overnight.
And following what's going on in the country today, to say the New Dawn government is promoting lesbian rights, gay rights, that is not right. We've said it before in opposition and now in government that we do not support gay, lesbian rights as a government.
Debate on sodomy has flooded the country in the past few days And the current administration has found itself at the center of the discussion, being accused of supporting the vice. United Party for National Development UPND National Trustee Grace Chivube says the continued politicization of the problem is acting as a hindrance to finding realistic solutions to this problem, stating that there is no need to politicize matters which have already been clarified. Ms. Chivube adds that there is also a need for concerned parties to unite and find workable solutions, as opposed to viewing real problems through a political lens. She was speaking to Camnet News in the company of Party Lundazi District Coordinator Dawood Mbeva.
If we go, Zambia is a Christian nation. Sometimes mule umfa konenso ni mule umfa konenso nukupatikisha omuntu ikintu ekyo tabamo mule umfa konenso nukupatikisha hakainde vintu efo tabamo iyi freedom eyo amiletera hakainde freedom amiletera hakainde mwafuma mu mulaini.
He wants to raise the high morals of every Zambian citizen, because you see, with high morals expect development. Hakainde would want to restore peace, which he is already doing, so that development can be realized in our country.
Meanwhile, the party, through its National Deputy Youth Chairperson Trevor Mwinde, has spoken out on its reference to the former ruling Patriotic Front PF in its governance.
And then what is wrong for somebody to talk about PF's failures and PF's activities by infusing cadres in sensitive government positions to make sure that they frustrate? Didn't you see just in the recent past where the PF Secretariat published lists of diplomats that are not remitting money to their Secretariat? Isn't that an embarrassment?
They have further called for the discussion of productive national issues, stating that there is need for Zambia to realign its political system to issue-based politics. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Young Women's Christian Association of Zambia has called for the banning of negative traditional practices that expose girls to sexual violence and abuse. YWCA National Council President Patricia Nyirenda Mwanga says her organization is saddened by the news that a 14-year-old grade 4 pupil was abused by a male adult after dancing on the podium at the Kutila Nsembe traditional ceremony of the Nsenga people in Chieftainess Mwanjabantu's area in Petauke district of Eastern Province. Mrs. Mwanga says her organization is also sad to note that most of the negative cultural practices are norms that are accepted in the communities, despite their negative effects on the girl children. She has since called on the police to deal with the man in question who attempted to sexually assault the young girl, including his accomplices and witness.
YWCA is saddened by the news item of a 14-year-old grade 4 pupil that was abused by a male adult after dancing on the podium at the Kutela Nsebe traditional ceremony of the Senga people in Chieftainess Mwanjabantu's area in Petauke district of Eastern Province. We would like to voice out on behalf of the young girl who was assertive enough to call for help when she realized that she was being abused. The man in question who attempted to sexually assault the young girl, including his accomplices and witness, must be dealt with according to the provisions of the law. The Children's Code Act number 12 of 2022, section 18(2)b and section 19(a)(c) forbids such acts against children. We are saddened as YWCA Zambia that most of the negative cultural practices are norms that are accepted in our communities despite their negative effects on the girl children.
Residents of Mutendero compound in Lusaka's Mnali constituency have urged fellows to take advantage of the subsidized connection of water and sewerage network under the Millennium Project Completion Agency with funding from government to have easy access to water as well as well-connected sewer system. The projects, which had stalled for over 2 years, had left many residents, resulting to illegal connections, resulting in mass sewer spillages in the area, increasing the risk of waterborne diseases. Works have since resumed as a check by Camnet News found works ongoing.
Nearly 1 year ago, The streets of Mtendere Section A compound in Lusaka's Munali constituency were overflowing with sewer spillages caused by illegal connections to the sewer system by some residents who had been earmarked for connection under the Millennium account. This happened after the project stalled, resulting in many desperate residents cutting deals with plumbers and connecting themselves, hence leading to disaster. The Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company has told Camnet News that the project has resumed following the release of funds from government, meaning that those under this project will now be connected. In interviews with Camnet News, some beneficiaries who have so far been connected to the sewer and water network say they only paid 175 kwacha for connection as it is subsidized, urging other residents to take advantage and have access to clean water and sanitation.
The pit latrines do contaminate the water underground. So since we are trying to save the water which is underground, so if we use these facilities, I think it's good for all of us. Especially for me, I find it very helpful because it's a modern facility. It's not for some class of people, but it's for everyone. So for us to use it, I think it's a good thing because we'll save water. Water is life, and then they're just good because you don't need today you dig there, tomorrow it's full, you have to dig somewhere else. So this one, once you make it, it's permanently. Yeah.
Apa tinachita connect na toilet, it is working well, very well. And then kutinachita kufia encourage abantu baje bamene bakadiboxiriza ma toilets na mapompi kuti bafake nde bachita encourage kuti bachita connect. It's very good and beneficial because tuloti pioto twaleposa apatula keeping ako. We used to spend a lot of money kumenshi. Now we are at least we are saving something.
So kunkana manzi kumichingiza bwanja against diseases.
Oh, mwamene kumatikingizira kai tikwanisa kungala na manzi okwanira yakuti loko pa nyumba unga keeping clean vija kuwasha stinkala na tuntu twadoti kambiri. Most of the time tima washa elio ma toilets yatu tirede manzi every time yamankalamu kai we are able to draw some water ya store.
Meanwhile, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company Acting Manager for Public Relations and Marketing Shamba Mzungu says over 120,000 people in Mtendere are expected to benefit.
Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company is doing the household connections after a section is handed over. So far, 4 sections have already been handed over by the contractor, and we have started doing those connections. In terms of the estimated number of beneficiaries, this project is going to benefit over 9,000 plots. But obviously, on a particular plot, you have maybe 3 households or 2 households, depending on how many houses are at that particular plot. And so the estimate beneficiaries by population is over 120,000 people benefiting from this project in Mtendere.
Access to clean water and sanitation has been identified as one of the core measures to Zambia's development by 2030. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
You're watching Camnet TV's main news. We'll take our first set of commercials. We'll be back with more after this.
In our quest to serve nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Thank you for staying with us. We continue with the rest of the main news. The Insurers Association of Zambia, IAZ, has underscored that the introduction of national health insurance has completed the growth of the insurance sector in Zambia. In 2019, Zambia introduced the National Health Insurance, NHI, as a healthcare financing strategy to increase universal access to healthcare services. And Mr. Moses Siame says the National Health Insurance has enabled people to understand the importance of insurance and that the private sector has leveraged on to market its products. Speaking during a press conference ahead of the Insurance Week, which is effective on Monday, 26th September 2022, Mr. Siame says insurance is a solution that prepares people to face risks in an event of calamities.
It has really helped to increase the insurance uptake because now it is compulsory for anyone who is working. They have to contribute to the NEMA scheme. So if you'd like, maybe I can give an example of the motor sector. For every motor vehicle to drive on the Zambian road, they need a minimum of third-party motor insurance. But there are still people that take up comprehensive insurance. This is beyond and above what the requirements of the law are. In terms of the health sector, there is the NEMA, which is a primary healthcare, primary insurance that every employee who is in employment should contribute, including, I'm told actually, my colleague from the Life Insurance Council will clarify or correct me if I'm wrong, that now they have even extended, NEMA have extended to actually include those in the informal sector. You may be doing your own business, but you can easily go and register under NEMA. So that is primary. Then beyond that, that's where now you take up the health insurance from the private sector that we are coming from. So there is a lot of complementary interaction that is happening in that space.
Tourism Minister Rodney Sikumba has called on the newly appointed 7-member Zambia Tourism Agency Board of Directors to ensure that ZTF fully implements the prioritizing online marketing tools and promotion and focus on international marketing in high-potential source markets. Speaking when he inaugurated the board in Lusaka this morning, Mr. Sikumba said there is also need for strengthening and expanding ZTA's marketing capacity. He said there is need to strengthen travel trade markets with a special focus on the African countries that have a huge purchasing power, such as Angola, the DRC, and Nigeria. He called on the board to expand visitor information services, among others. The board is led by Mr. Daniel Brink from Livingstone Adventure Group of Companies as chairperson.
It's very exciting that we are unveiling the Zambia Tourism Agency Board. And obviously this is against the background that this board has been absent for the last 12 months. It is now my singular honor and pleasure to unveil the new board of directors of the Zambia Tourism Agency. And these are as follows. Mr. Daniel Brink from Livingstone Adventures, who will become chair of the board. We have Ms. Lillian S. Walia, Director of Tourism in the Ministry of Tourism. Another board member is Dr. Lucy Nyundo from the Zambia Institute of Marketing. The other member is Ms. Celine Mena-Nea, Principal Legal Advisor from Ministry of Justice. The other board member is Mr. Andrew Mwinga, Assistant Director from Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And last but not least is Mr. Matongo Matamwandi, the Vice Chancellor for Kenneth Kaunda Metropolitan University.
In other news, the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment has approved a total number of 190 concession licenses in the category of small and medium scale, respectively. Minister in charge of Green Economy, Collins Nzovu, notes that a ad hoc committee was formed in order to enhance transparency in the selection process, which saw over 1,500 applicants countrywide. Mr. Nzovu says this process, which was extended twice and now concluded, will culminate into a clean and orderly business for the successful applicants. The minister has also noted that assessments process was guided by the set key factors, among them area falling in game management areas and areas not advertised. Mr. Nzovu says the timber concession licenses that have been approved in game management areas were concluded with the consent of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife in accordance with the Zambia Wildlife Act No. 14 of 2015. Accordingly, some licenses have not been issued because of conflict with the plans and zonation of ecologically sensitive areas as determined by relevant stakeholders.
Timber concession licenses that have been approved in game management areas were concluded with the consent of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife in accordance with the Zambia Wildlife Act No. 14 of 2015, and indeed the Ministry of Tourism was consulted. Accordingly, some licenses have not been issued because of conflict with the plans and zonation of ecologically sensitive areas as determined by the relevant stakeholders. In addition, applications for licenses in areas that were not advertised were not considered. Number 2, cooperatives, youth groups, local community empowerment, and Zambian citizens. In line with the new Dawn government policy of empowering more people with opportunities and creation of jobs at local level, consideration was given to cooperatives, youth groups, and other social groups in the approval of the applications. The approval process was excluded non-Zambians. The selection process, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, has now been successfully concluded, and the total number of 190 concession licenses have been approved. The approved concession licenses are in the categories of small and medium scale only. The approved concession licenses shall be published on the 26th, 28th, and 30th September 2022.
International and sports news coming through right after this commercial.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Welcome back. Now getting into our international item. Guinea's military leader, Mohamed Doumbouya, landed Wednesday in Bamako. He was welcomed by Mali's military ruler, Assimi Goïta. The goodwill and working visit, as stated by a communique, came on the eve of Mali's 62nd independence anniversary and an ECOWAS extraordinary summit in New York Thursday. Here's a roundup of international news.
Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya landed Wednesday in Bamako. Guinea's military leader was welcomed by Mali's military ruler. The goodwill and working visit, as stated by a Malian communique, came on the eve of two major events: Bamako's 62nd independence anniversary and an ECOWAS extraordinary summit in the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Guinea's ruler insisted on the first event. I am in Bamako alongside my brother, President Assimi, to celebrate Mali's independence and to accompany the Malian people. Mali is a sister nation. And of course, we know that Guinea and Mali are like one lung, two organs in the same body. It is important that I be in Bamako to celebrate the independence of Mali with our Malian brothers. Both leaders have many issues to touch on. Their countries remain suspended from ECOWAS bodies. West African leaders will discuss Guinea's transition timetable Thursday. The diplomatic row between Mali and Ivory Coast over the detention of 46 soldiers is also on the agenda. Hundreds of Ivorians marched through Abidjan Tuesday. It was the latest demonstration in solidarity with 46 soldiers who were arrested in Mali in July. To end the dispute that followed, Bamako has suggested a prisoner swap, but Abidjan calls it blackmailing. Members of the CONASU political organization and relatives of the troops insist they are not mercenaries as Mali claims. Our children are not criminals and they can't be exchanged with Malian politicians. That won't happen. They must free those kids. They are just soldiers. They have nothing to do with Malian politics. With placards reading "We stand with the soldiers," or Mali and Ivory Coast are sister nations, the protesters called for a diplomatic resolution of the row. We will never accept the blackmail or manipulation of the Malian military junta. That's why we are reiterating our support to the president. He can count on the people of Ivory Coast. He can count on the youth. Since the crisis erupted in July, Togo has acted as a mediator between Mali and Ivory Coast. To discuss the issue, an ECOWAS extraordinary summit should take place Thursday on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly.
The leader of Tunisia's Islamist-inspired Ennahda party was questioned through the night over alleged complicity in the departure of jihadist militants for Syria and Iraq this Wednesday. Rachid Ghannouchi, a key player in Tunisian politics for over a decade, appeared before a judge after being questioned overnight by specialists from the anti-terror police. Ghannouchi dismissed all the allegations, suggesting Ennahda's involvement. This whole thing is about something that does not concern us. It is called the shipment of jihadists to conflict zones. All the attempts of the investigators to justify or prove these accusations against the Ennahda party are indeed in vain, due to the simple fact that the Ennahda political party has nothing to do with this situation. Rachid Ghannouchi, whom had been exiled for over 2 decades during Ben Ali's presidency and returned following the country's 2011 uprising, is a key opponent of current Tunisian President Kais Saied. There is an orchestrated attempt by the government to eliminate a political opponent. Ennahda is the biggest and oldest party in the country. They have failed in the electoral confrontation and in freedom. They have found nothing else but to try and smear us and degrade us by affiliating us with terrorism to eliminate a powerful political opponent. The opposition party Ennahda played a central role in Tunisia's post-Ben Ali democratic politics until Kais Saied began his power grab in July of last year, which was followed by a controversial referendum that granted him unchecked powers to his office.
We now get into sports news. Manchester United have announced a net loss of €115.5 million for the 2021-2022 season, even though revenues rose by 18% to €583 million. Figures released incorporating the final quarter of their financial year, which ended in June, showed losses rose by €23 million on the previous year. The club's net debt also went up from €419.5 million in 2021 to €514.9 million this year, an increase of more than 22%. United put that rise of €95.4 million primarily down to €64.6 million of unreleased foreign exchange losses on the restriction of borrowings in United States dollars. Revenue rose by €89.1 million. Manchester United lost €2 million per week last season. Chief Financial Officer Cliff Barty, their financial results for fiscal 2022 reflect a recovery from the pandemic, a full return of funds, and new commercial partnerships offset by increased investment in the playing squad, said. In another international item, Chipolopolo trainer Moses Sichone ran the rule of the late arrivals at the Modibo Kate Stadium this morning as the Zambian men's national team continue to prepare for tomorrow's FIFA International Friendly match against Eagles of Mali. The rest of the squad will have an evening workout at the 26th March Stadium in Bamako, which will host the highly anticipated clash tomorrow. Zambia plays Mali on Friday and Monday in two international friendly matches that are being used as preparatory games for the Ivory Coast 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers in March next year. Well, that sports item brings us to the end of Camnet TV main news, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. Secretary to the Cabinet hints on cutting down allowances for civil servants to increase productivity. Government to maintain the LGBTQ community clinic at UTH. A 24-year-old woman of CHAWAMA compound nursing a deep wound after taking a family planning job. And in international news, Guinea's military ruler in Mali on eve of ECOWAS extraordinary summit. And in sports, Manchester United announces €115.5 million net loss for 2021-2022 season. Before we go, our Camnet verse of the day is coming from the book of Romans 15 verse 7, and it reads, "Accept one another then, just as Christ accepted you, in order to bring praise to God." Thank you for watching. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Pleasant viewing.